Welcome back to your favorite channel. And today I will be continuing my Questioning Evolutionists series with round number 4. If you haven't seen rounds number 1, 2, or 3, you should definitely watch them. I really like this topic, and I always have a lot of fun on Donnie's channel asking these questions. And as always, these clips are from debates hosted on the Standing for Truth channel. So, if you like to explore science and the Bible, that's the channel for you. Anyways, on to the first question. First question is from a debate between Kent Hovind and Ken Rock on the 6 stages of evolution. I think it's great that evolutionists are acknowledging that there are 6 stages to evolution. They typically like to skip the first 4. Anyways, in this clip, I asked Ken Rock a question on chemical evolution.
Next question comes in from Taylor K. Taylor, thank you very much for the question. Question for Ken. If it takes a supernova to produce elements heavier than iron, why are there so many of those elements on Earth since we have not had a supernova in our solar system?
Other supernovas happen in other solar systems and knock those materials towards us, and Earth's gravitational pull pulls it in on meteors. Stuff got onto this Earth via the first supernova that created the universe. I think humans have the ability to create, at this point in time, substances as hot as the sun. So theoretically, at some point, we could make them. Yeah, those are the reasons.
Thank you, Ken. Kent, would you like a response?
That would only take place in another video game. That's imagination. Good job, Taylor. Keep up the good work. When I die, you come down here and work at our ministry. We need you down here. Go to Taylor's channel on science. He's 10 years old doing a creation science channel. It's awesome. Even supernovas can't create elements heavier than iron. It can't be done. We don't know how they came here, but they exist. There are 92 elements. They do exist. You guys don't have an answer for how they got here. So quit calling it science. That's all. Go ahead.
Ken?
I can dismiss what you just said based off the fact that it was just an argument to ignorance.
Ken Rock, did you want, it looks like Taylor has a clarifying question. So all the gold came in from a meteor.
It could have, but it also could have formed when the first supernova happened. So basically, when the first supernova happened, whether or not you think a god was responsible for it, he would know that we would need gold if you do. He would just make sure that the gold formed on the Earth as it was needed. So that is how. God or no God is justifiable.
Okay. All right.
So, we can directly observe through observable science that elements cannot fuse past iron inside a star. But we know elements heavier than iron exist. So many scientists believe that those elements form in supernovas. Ken Rock's answer to how we got all of those elements on Earth is that they must have traveled trillions of miles through the vast emptiness of space and just happened to land on Earth. So wouldn't that mean all those heavy elements would be found in meteorites and not embedded with rocks and other materials indigenous to Earth like we commonly see? Plus, it does not seem likely that all those elements would come from explosions trillions of miles away and wouldn't most of them just burn up when entering the atmosphere? Anyways, on to the next question. Next question is from a debate between Snake Was Right and Jamie. I asked Snake a question about the problems evolutionists have demonstrating organisms going from single-celled to multi-celled.
Okay, next question comes in from Taylor K. Thank you very much for the question. It is presented in 2 parts, so we'll work through it. Question for Snake. Single-celled bacteria are the most versatile and adaptable organisms on Earth. And according to evolution, were dominant for over 2 billion years. What evolutionary pressure appeared to make being multicellular advantageous?
Evolutionary pressures appeared to push certain individuals, non-bacteria, to evolve. Well, we went over one of them was predation. Another one of them would simply be if it was advantageous somehow for you to be at the bottom of the pool of water or body of water, versus at the top. And this is the question that these papers are trying to ask. What evolutionary pressures could have led to these changes? And these are two options.
Okay, thank you, Taylor, and thanks for the question, Taylor. So, Jamie, though, if you had a response, floor is yours.
Yeah, I actually kind of tried to get onto that topic earlier when I asked you what would have shifted to make this whole transition happen in the first place, and now we're in a Earth that's dominated by what we would consider less adaptive organisms. Humans are much more less adaptive than the than Chlamydomonas or the bacteria. Pick your poison. Humans are much less adaptive than these things. So why are we the ones that are dominating the Earth? Just doesn't make dominating the Earth. Just doesn't make sense. It seems like the Earth was created for us in a sense, as opposed to we evolved from something that was better than us.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like I didn't really address that first part of the question, which was like, so if they're so highly competent, why would they even need to change? Well, environments change, but it's also like the other thing is we can coexist with bacteria. Human beings are pretty adaptable, but we as multicellular organisms cannot just sit on the bottom of the ocean next to a magma flow and be fine. Stuff like that is pretty much not possible when you're getting into macroorganisms. There are advantages of being single cellular, such as being able to adapt to harsher environments because you're less complex.
Okay, so I had to cut down some of Snake's response because it was so long, but he basically said these two things. One was about predation, and the other was about something about an advantage of being at the bottom of the ocean instead of the top. I don't know what he means by the second reason, so let's talk about predation. Predation is simply one organism eating another. This doesn't explain how a single-celled organism evolved into a multi-celled organism or provide any evidence of the existence of two-celled organisms. The smallest multi-celled organism is a nematode worm, and it has roughly 1,000 cells. Predation isn't going to result in single-celled organisms becoming multicellular, nor is it going to explain the massive jump from one-celled organisms to a 1,000-celled organism. Okay, on to question 3. This question is from a geology debate between Professor McQueen and Snake. Okay, so here's the question.
Salt is currently being added to the ocean at a rate of, there's the rate for you, per year. If the oceans are 3 billion years old, they would be much saltier at this rate. Question is, why are the oceans not as salty?
Yeah, so the rate of salt addition is variable, and so that can go up and down. The argument with things like limestone deposition is that is also variable, but there is an observed cap to it, so we haven't observed a rate that's fast enough for it to have been deposited in 6,000 years. So there's probably a cap for how much salt can be added to the ocean as well, but the fact that both of those rates are variable, the fact that the salt rate can go down would be perfectly consistent with reality. And so this current rate that we're observing is, again, not preclusionary in the sense that there isn't actually a contradiction.
David, floor is yours.
Let me take a moment, Taylor, and correct a point that you've made there. You said that the evolutionary community believes the ocean is 3 billion years old. Well, that would put it in the Precambrian. And no 21st century geologist would say that the ocean floor is that old. In contrast, they put the age as Triassic, that there's no part of any ocean worldwide that has been cored and looked at that looks older than Triassic. Now, why would that be important in this argument about the amount of NaCl that is going into the ocean.
Are you sure about that, Professor McQueen? I got those numbers from an article in Answers in Genesis right here. Plus, Google also confirms this theory of 3 billion years, which is much older than the Triassic period, which is 251 million years ago. Anyways, go ahead.
It's important for this reason. The evolutionary community believes that any excess salt, any excess copper, any excess sodium is recycled in the subduction zones around the Earth, around the plates. The argument around, it's a point of fact that the amount of sodium, potassium, silver, gold, copper, lead, zinc that are found in the ocean floor or in suspension in the modern ocean water is far less than would be predicted by a ocean that's even as old as Triassic. And so the overall argument that you make in that question is actually a good one. And I would challenge Snake to explain why the amount of sodium, the amount of copper, lead, zinc doesn't match even a Triassic age for the ocean.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure why you think that that would be predicted by the age of the Triassic, because that would be excluding a lot of other things that we know about. So that would be, so the assumption of consensus is not that the salt deposition rate, or not deposition, but salt accumulation rate would be the same. That wouldn't be an assumption. And there's also built into a realistic model would have to, as you mentioned, be ways of taking salt out of the water. And both of those rates are variable. So the prediction that you mentioned would only be an unrealistic model of just a flat accumulation rate that is what's current. And yet, but in reality, we know that the rate is variable. And we also know that there is a variable rate of salt coming out of the water. And so one might be high right now and the other might be low at this point, but those can change, and we should assume those change because the conditions are much more complicated than just this one variable staying constant over time.
So Snake's argument is that the amount of salt entering the ocean changes each year. Are you sure about that argument, Snake? A simple Google search confirms my numbers. And what mechanism would cause the amount of salt to fluctuate so much? And if salt is being removed from the ocean, what is removing it and where is it going? Okay, on to my final question. Okay, my final question today is from an origins debate between Jamie and James W. Here's the clip.
Next question comes in from Taylor K. Thank you for the question, Taylor. Question is for James. What came first, the DNA to code for proteins or the proteins needed for transcription for mRNA and translation for the polypeptides?
You talked about origin of life research on that. So which came first? Well, RNA came first. If you're talking about origin of life, where do I go on that? I tend to think it's going to be some variant of the RNA world hypothesis. So into that, these self-replicating polymers would have assembled themselves. They would be RNA based. And so you probably would have the proteins coming first from amino acids that would have assembled themselves into RNA. How that process happened, I'm not well versed on. Origin of life research is a completely different there than evolution. Evolution's a force in nature. It takes place. We see it, by the way, not just in life. We see it all over. How tiny changes in the short term, add changes in the long term. Method of a process, how these initial compounds formed. But what you can't really debate is what happens once life forms.
Okay, James, thank you very much. Jamie, if there's anything you'd like to add, floor is yours.
Yeah, first thing I'd like to add is I think it's amazing that 12-year-old girl just stumped you with that question. That was just fantastic. Beautiful. Good job, Taylor K. If you ever want me to be a guest on your show, I will gladly come on your show and answer as many questions as I can. The other thing I wanted to point out is I think it's hilarious that all throughout this debate, James is basically trying to put intelligence into evolution, and he doesn't even see it. It's hilarious. It's literally the words are coming out of his mouth, and he still doesn't see what he's saying. He's saying evolution could have done it this way. Evolution. He's adding intelligence into evolution, but yet he wants to reject an intelligent designer. And I just wanted to point that out for the audience because I think it's hilarious. How can you deny an intelligent designer, but then try and claim that evolution had intelligence to bring forth all of these changes? So that's all I'll say about that.
Okay, so I got some help from my brother for this question. He's in AP biology, and he's pretty good at this stuff. I don't really know what this means. Transcription, translation, polypeptides. So I'm going to have my brother address this question. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, Zach, what do you think of their responses?
So, I saw the debate, and here's my response. Even if you have proteins coming first from random amino acids that were not coded for by DNA, which is highly unlikely, how will the cell know what to do with that protein? And if it's not the right protein for that specific job it's in, it will definitely kill the cell. This still doesn't describe how DNA came to be, because proteins wouldn't know how to make DNA because DNA didn't code proteins to make DNA. If we assume that amino acids were randomly made and somehow made a protein, having all the specific proteins needed to make DNA and be in the right spot in the cell and perform their job correctly is impossible.
Wow. Thank you for your help today, Zach. That was great. So, do you guys think we look alike? A lot of people say that. I don't really see it, but okay. Okay, so that's all the clips we have for today. So, if after all that, and all my videos in my Creation versus Evolution playlist, and you still believe you owe your life to a rock, please comment why down below, and I will try to help. So, yeah. Well, anyways, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Comment what you want to see next. And remember to question everything.